Welcome to the Job Fair, where we give job seekers and employers the space to tell their own stories and bring our listeners along for the ride. We're your hosts, Doug and Shauna. Let's dive into it.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 5 of the Job Fair.
Welcome back, everyone. Episode 5 indeed. So episode 5 marks a pretty big milestone for the show, but before we kick things off, we want to give a huge thanks to each and every one of you for rocking with us thus far.
Absolutely, and I second that. We're so grateful for all the supporters and listeners. The likes, the shares, the downloads, and the messages. It means so much to us.
For sure. All right, and we're going to keep running it up. So without further ado, we're excited to welcome and introduce the Job Fair's very first job seeker guest.
Yeah.
The brilliant, the talented horticulture professional, Mr. Steve Jeanty. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Shauna, for having me. Oh my gosh, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah,
I'm your first guest?
Yes. And,
oh my gosh.
And I think I'm outnumbered. Steve, you're from the East Coast?
I am from the East Coast.
2 versus 1.
Yeah. You have the better weather for sure.
Oh, absolutely. 100% agree.
Yeah.
Pleasure to have you on, good sir. So as you know, quick refresher for our listeners. Shauna and I created the Job Fair as a space for job seekers and employers to flex what we believe is the most important muscle in today's job market, the power of storytelling.
But first, as you know, we have a little tradition here before we dive into topics and episodes, the always fun, sometimes spicy segment called Agree to Disagree.
Let's do it.
All right, for guest episodes, we're tweaking the game just a tad. Instead of the normal 2 questions each by Shauna and myself, we'll only have 3 questions in total, with Steve, Shauna, and I asking 1 each. All the rest remains the same, with each of us choosing strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree. All right, Steve, you ready?
Let's do it. Ready.
All right, I'm going to kick us off. Thank you letters are still a key part of proper interview etiquette.
Steve, as our guest.
I strongly agree. I like to, after an interview, I don't like to send it right away, maybe end of day, just to remind the person I interviewed with, hey, thank you for taking the time to interview me, especially considering how busy employers or managers' day is. You want to make sure that thank you for taking this half hour, 15 minutes, hour to talk to me. And I usually mention something that we talked about in the interview, nothing serious. I hope your dog feels better. Thank you for sharing with me whatever's going on in your personal life.
Oh, such a kind lad.
Oh, yes, I have to.
Personal.
You have to. Because realistically, they're interviewing, let's say, minimum 3-4 people for the same position. You have to remain memorable.
All right, Steven.
Okay, well, for me, so Doug, no surprise here, I'm torn. I do think this is industry specific. I feel like in tech, they've become less and less popular. I also say, as someone who has hired folks onto a team, I appreciate them. I question if they move the needle, though. Would that push anyone over? I don't know. I always send them, though. So I do think for myself, they are a key part of that proper interview etiquette. But I'm not sure as a hiring manager if I would consider that same.
All right. I am not going to be a strongly agree. I'm going to be more so an agree. I agree. It's not a deal breaker. If you got the chops for the job and someone likes you, I don't think it matters that much anymore. But I like to cover all my bases, like Brother Steven here. So
Can I add a caveat to that?
Yeah, do it.
My favorite saying recently is the world's getting smaller. We're becoming more global. People are leaving jobs to go another job. I think beyond that specific position that you're interviewing for that's the reason why I send the thank you letter. I may not qualify for the position now, but that person might leave, go to another company, remember me, or another position might open up 6 months from now. And like, I'm trying to leave the person with a lasting image of myself. And even if I don't get the position now, then you never know how the world's gonna shake out.
Yeah, even Steven with a strategy, though.
You see the vision?
All right. I'll move us on to our next one. So, as you know, I'm on the West Coast. So my question is, $20 an hour is the new California fast food minimum wage. That's fair.
I'm torn on this one. I think it depends. What's the cost of living? And another question, what's the company or organizations who now have to work in that space or live in that space, right? You mentioned California. Are they going to move to $20 an hour and just revamp their restaurants or their facilities and just bring in a lot of new technologies? And now your manager, who's not getting $20 an hour, is now doing multiple tasks, including fixing the soda machine or fixing the kiosk. At face value, it sounds wonderful. Increased minimum wage allows people to make more money. But if it's going to come at the cost of now everything's a kiosk, then I'd rather give employees more opportunities for overtime.
So you disagree?
It sounds like it, right? The more I kind of work it out.
So for me, this is a strongly disagree. I feel that it makes the fast food industry in California way more unsustainable. Labor is a key component to the sustainability of any business. It just completely disrupts that, and or to Steve's point, it just tremendously downgrades the average experience for customers in a fast food restaurant, having to deal with more kiosks and eventually robots. So I disagree.
Man, okay.
Crowd,
So
right?
it is, because I was just thinking lighthearted. I was going to agree over here because I live in California. Specifically what Steve said, the cost of living is very high here. And it is very hard. If it was like $9, $12, when I started working, that's when I had $7, I think it was. So I feel like just based off of that was why I agree. But then you all took it in like a much more deeper whole business thing. But I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to keep it at I agree. I agree it should be $20. And I don't know what's going to happen to the business downstream, but with this question, I agree.
All right, before we move on, I just want to express some compassion for you in California, these teenagers who are paying $6 a gallon in gas and things like that. So I'm sorry. My heart goes out to you. I just feel like fast food is not the place to make a true living. So
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Well, I have an agree to disagree question. Virtual interviews are more favorable towards job candidates compared to in-person interviews.
That's a good one. I'm going to disagree. The reason I'm going to disagree is because virtual interviews, you lose that human connection, that instinct that you may get about someone. I think that's hard to convey on a Zoom call. And I think that oftentimes is an X factor, along with obviously the storytelling or your ability to storytell. So yeah, I disagree with this.
Okay. I'm going to agree with this because I do think that virtual interviews are more helpful for job candidates because there's less stress than sitting across the table or desk from someone when you go to in-person interviews. And at least for myself, I feel less stress because you can have notes on the screen, you can be prepared, you have your questions and everything. So I would say it's more favorable toward job candidates. However, as a hiring manager, if you're looking for something specific or you want more pointers at if this is the right candidate, I could see from that perspective how in-person interviews would be more favorable to me in that position. But for the topic of this question, I would say that I agree virtual interviews are in person.
Shauna, I agree with you too. There is less
That's
stress.
why you're a guest on the show.
Appreciate it. I think that you're right. It's less stress at home when you could kind of have your notes prepared, have a bunch of talking points, make sure that you're quickly researching, doing last minute research of the company or the position right before you jump in. For me, from a potential employee standpoint, I want to be able to get familiar with the commute if my job is in person. I want to be able to leave my house 30 minutes or 45 minutes ahead of time, learn the commute, learn the parking.
God,
salary, right, that affects the amount of money that I ask for.
When I'm doing that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get there 45 minutes in advance. I got to be here. I got to do a test run on Sunday.
But I live for this. I do a test run. And from an employer standpoint, I want to be able to give you a tour of the facility. I want to be able to show you where the greenhouse is, where these things are, to not scare you. And if you have big googly eyes or you're scared of everything that's in front of you, that tells me that, okay, maybe this is not the decision for you.
So in just this agree to disagree, I have learned that Steve is even. he is organized, he's a planner, and he has a strategy. So,
and I'm a big fat liar. So if you ask my wife, I am not. I dare you to like open my clothing closet. It is super messy. So,
That was a good one. Great to have you in the mix there, Steve. All right. Shall we dive right into it?
Yeah, let's bring it back to the segment's topic, highlighting Steve.
All right, Steve. So kick us off, man. Give us your elevator pitch, your career elevator pitch.
So get on the elevator. Hi, my name is Steve Jeanty. I have close to a decade of experience in controlled environmental agriculture, both in greenhouses and vertical farms. I have close to 10 years of leadership experience as well, from being team lead to supervisor to manager. In addition, I went to the best university on this side of the universe, Rutgers University. There, I earned a bachelor's in plant science, a minor in ag and food systems, and I'm currently pursuing a master's degree in global agriculture, which is a dual business and agriculture.
Wow. Awesome. Okay. Wow. I have actually a follow-up there, if you don't mind. You mentioned just a little bit about your career, and then you talked about being in leadership roles. Do you enjoy being an IC, or do you prefer being a leader manager?
I think early in my career, I did not like being in a manager role. I think a lot of times management comes with the heavy discipline duties. Somebody shows up late, somebody didn't follow the rules. Here comes a write-up, the uncomfortable firings, and looking at resumes for interviews and interviewing. Those are the parts that I did not enjoy. But I think throughout my experiences, throughout my years, I've learned that I'm a good leader. I've learned that I'm a natural leader. And I've learned that I get most of my joy from putting people in positions to win. So I think throughout, as I got older in this field, I like the management aspect of it, but I'm a nerd at heart. I'm currently wearing a sweater. Shauna, pop quiz. What do you call an acid with an attitude? And that's amino acid. So I think I'm a nerd. I think I'm a plant science nerd, and I enjoy the aspect of learning how things work and how to get the most out of plants. So I honestly don't know. If I could have them both, I would.
Fair.
And on that note, nerd, what have you done in the last year to improve your knowledge and savvy on plant science, your craft?
I've read a lot of books. I could find myself in a YouTube world. Ohio State has a pretty good controlled environmental ag department, and sometimes the seminars are online. One of my favorite books that I recently got is called Plant Empowerment, and I've read it and I'm trying to take notes as I go to it. A lot of my experiences are in my job and working with my team, understanding the plant science, understanding what we need to get out of these plants. So a lot of that on-hands experience happens at work, but I have a couple plants and books at home that I just reread or listen to on YouTube to kind of keep myself up to date.
Amazing.
I also noticed you've put extensive time into going back to school, higher education. And this the reason why I'm curious about your thoughts here is because Doug and I actually talk a little bit more in one of our other episodes about college degrees versus upskilling versus career experience. And I would love to hear from you how you find the balance between the education versus the on-hands experience, and just how you kind of think about that, especially putting in so much time to getting education resources.
It's a good question, and I'm trying to find the best way to explain it. I think for me is I'm trying not to plateau, and so I'm trying to mix as much skills in my bag as possible, whether that's school and at work experiences or anything that I could learn online on YouTube. I'm trying not to plateau in this industry, in my field. Yeah. And so I guess that fear of not plateauing has driven me to want to learn more and gain more knowledge.
So it's safe to say that you're a student, right? Lifelong student, as they say.
I am. Absolutely. You're always learning.
All right, Steve. Well, talk to me about the 3 most defining chapters of your professional experience. if you had to give me the three most salient experiences that made you this professional that you are today, what are they?
Sure. I think if we go back like 12 years,
Mm.
I graduated high school. And when I graduated high school, I had a 1.67 GPA.
Wow.
And at that time, I already was accepted to my college. So I just let that thing flunk. I let that thing drop. And my first year of college, I failed out of it. I was getting high every day at my dorm, playing video games, and not really having a true understanding of what I wanted to do. I failed out of that college. I went to a community college, didn't do very well there either. Did I tell you, Doug or Shauna, that I have a massage therapy license?
No.
I after my community college, I went to a massage therapy school, and I had it's either 700 hours or 950 hours. I thought that that's what I wanted to do, and those are the skills that I needed. And the cannabis consumption didn't really ease, and I kept missing my classes. So there, at that point, 12 years ago, came some serious conversations and understanding that I had to put something down, which was my cannabis consumption, and or I had to pick up a skill and or do something with myself. I was finishing my teenage years and entering the 19s to 20s and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And one day I was high at my friend's house and we were debating on
Is this friend Doug?
Absolutely not.
No,
absolutely not.
I didn't know Doug then at that time. So shout out to Tarzan. My friend was Tarzan, and Tarzan at the time was talking about our food system, and Tarzan said, food's gotten so bad that we now label things organic just to let consumers know what's being tinkered.
Quick pause here. So chapter 1, the pothead masseuse.
Yes.
Is that what I'm getting?
Yes, chapter 1. That was the pothead masseuse. You know, in old cartoons where the person has the stick in the bag over their shoulder and they're just kind of wandering through the forest. That was me.
Got it. Okay. So you flunked out of school the first year, and then I guess you had your, as they say, the coming to Jesus moment. What did chapter 2 look like now?
So after he said that, I was like, oh wow, where does our food come from? What is organic? And that began my journey in understanding our food system. I basically hit a wall. If this is what I want to do, then go to school, get the education, upskill, get what you need to do, so that way more doors could open for me. So Shauna, to your previous question about going to school versus upskilling, that was my first come to Jesus moment, that if this is what I want to do, I have to make sure that I'm certified. So I went back to my community college. I finished there. That's when I started working at Era Farms, and journey chapter 2 was just working full time and going to school full time to get my associate's degree, to get my bachelor's degree. Chapter 2 was a lot of hustling.
Amazing. So that we'll call that chapter 2 was the Rutger Farm era. Going to Rutgers and working at Arrow Farm. All right.
Absolutely.
And bring it home, Steve. What's that final experience that brought you to where you are today?
Sure. So after Arrow Farms, I went to work for a company called Columbia Care. They're now called Cannabis. And at the time, I was working as the Northeast Regional Manager. I would go from site to site, working with the grow room managers and helping achieve yields, increasing THC potency, and any IPM plan, any new cannabis products that the team or the region wanted to introduce to that specific market. I did that for about 18 months, and currently I am unemployed. I have 2 wonderful kids with me. I am recently upskilling. I recently got my yellow belt and green belt in Lean Six Sigma. And thanks.
So you relapsed. You went back to cannabis after that rough start. This time you were getting a check for it and some professional experience.
Absolutely.
So, okay, got it.
Absolutely. And I haven't consumed cannabis for about 10 years.
What?
which was awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And you just listening to you and your story, I mean, it's clear you didn't have a straight path. It wasn't like this is the path forward and it's all over. Moving us a little bit in a different direction is just talk about skill sets. So from that, you probably have learned a lot of different things, picked up a lot of different things. Name a few of what you think are your strongest skill sets.
Sure. So I think one, it's my ability to jump into a new environment and acclimate quickly. I left the leafy greens industry, vertical farms, learning how to use scissor lifts and other machinery, to now jumping into greenhouse and talking about cannabis and completely different plants. And I felt like an AI machine that was quickly just taking in data, and then pretty soon I was submitting information. So first, I would say it's my ability to jump into a scenario and acclimate quickly and making sure that we're providing the best for the company or for the mission at hand. Secondly, I think it's my people skills. I want to make sure that I am relating to you, or that way we have a common understanding. This is the company's goals, but I also understand that we're both humans and we both have things that are outside of work that may be either distracting us or that our attention is not 100% there. So what can I do while we're at work to make sure that I have your full attention? So I can make sure that I'm pulling you there and making sure that you feel comfortable to where you could do your job efficiently and do what you need to do.
How about employer preferences? What's the top characteristics of your ideal company and work culture?
I want a culture where we could have open discussions without the need of somebody having to be right and somebody having to be wrong. Open scientific discussion kind of allows for us to figure out what's the best path moving forward. Two, the commute has to be something that it's not too far. I have two kids and they're under 2 and they get sick a lot. So I want to make sure that I'm there for them. And 3, I think it's longevity. I've seen what's going on in the indoor controlled environment space. There's a lot of companies that filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy or heavily downsizing. Wherever I work next, I want to be able to look at it and say, yeah, I could spend 5 years here, or I could spend 10 years here without the worry.
Yeah, I agree. Like, please be able to pay me for more than a year.
Yeah.
So I did want to also ask you about the current state of your industry. I know you worked in cannabis, which I guess is its own subset of agriculture. But what's going on? What are the latest misconceptions, challenges, and maybe even like opportunities that you want to share?
As somebody who's looking for his next opportunity, a lot of the opportunities or jobs are not within the Northeast anymore. And so I'm almost having to come with the real reality or conundrum that I may have to move somewhere in the West Coast if I want to continue to be in this space.
Come on this side. Come on this side. It's nice over here.
No, absolutely. I mean, California is nice. I think you guys have 3 football teams, and I've always looked at the Sunday football slate from
we
the
have
West Coast.
Sunshine, okay? We have nice weather and $20 minimum wage.
Oh,
cool.
gosh.
Okay, awesome. The breadth of your experience across different types of agriculture, super interesting. And I think that you're well-rounded when it comes to plant science and making money from it. So, yeah.
For sure.
Thank you.
For sure. And I appreciate you sharing your story. I feel like I learned so much, especially knowing that your path wasn't so straight, just hearing about all the things you went through to get there. And I look forward to seeing you continue in the industry, and I can't wait to see what's next. I know Doug and I will be rooting for you from the sidelines, and we'll be saying, like, we knew Steve when he was the first guest on the job fair.
Thank you so much.
I guess that brings us home. So at this point, I want everyone to pause, stop what you're doing, take a second, and please kindly check us out on our website. That's The Job Fair. That's FARE.com. Learn more about our story. Shoot us a message. We'd love to have you out on our virtual set. That's job seekers and employers alike. Come share your unique story on set with us.
And before we wrap, Steve, such a pleasure. Appreciate you so much for being here. So happy to have you on.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
That was wonderful.
All right. And that's a wrap. We'll see everybody for
That's
episode 6.
Six.
Cut.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everybody.